My name's Carl Sutton. I'm with Fresh Roots Farm in Polson, Montana. And today I'm going to talk about our LOR grant that we received this summer to improve our soil health and our water management. My wife, Darcy Jones, and I have been operating Fresh Roots Farm since 2011, and we have been certified organic since 2012. Our mission is, as you can see, is we're dedicated to producing seed with integrity. And to do that, we keep our operation smaller, making it more manageable, and we try our best to have a living wage for both our employees as well as for ourselves. And sometimes doing that is not always the easiest path, but it is one that we've persevered to try to achieve. And advance, so. All right, let's stop for a sec.
Okay. Pause.
So as I said, Fresh Roots Farm, we are an organic seed farm. We produce about 5 acres of vegetable and flower seeds, as well as a mixture of small berries, raspberries, blackcurrants, gooseberries, and strawberries. Our seed crops typically are a cool and warm season dry seeds, such as lettuce and carrots and beets and crops like that. We tend to stay away from wet seeded crops like tomatoes and squashes. Our berries we sell primarily through farmers market, a little bit wholesale, and we have a value added business called Flare Pops, where we use our berries to create delicious seasonal paletas or popsicles that we sell at festivals and farmers markets. These are images of our crop seed mix. Again, we've got carrots and onions and beets and lettuce and radish and sunflowers and bachelor buttons. Managing seed crops are a slightly different beast than managing vegetables. With seed production, we manage the vegetable crop for the first half of the plant's life, and then rather than cutting the plant and selling it to our customers, we have to manage the second half of that plant's life, which leads to the seed crop. The challenges that persist with that type of production is one, it's a long season, typically beginning in April, ending in October for many crops. So there's very little time to have cover crops to build soil. In addition, because the crops get big in the second half of their life when they're producing seed, we can't get the tractors in to manage our alleys. So we typically would use a tiller or some sort of cultivation instrument to control the weeds, which would what we felt was damaging to our soil over time. In addition, managing the crops in the vegetable stage, we use overhead irrigation, whereas in the seed stage, we would use drip irrigation because we want to keep our plants dry to reduce the potential for disease. So all those challenges, we were trying to figure out a way to come up with being more efficient with our labor in managing our weeds and more efficient in managing our drip irrigation over our 5 acres. So the LOR grant allows us to buy a couple key pieces of equipment. One is this drop seeder that's from Earth Tools. And this seeder we use to seed cover crops in our alleys between the plants in their vegetative stage. And then the tool on the right is a winder, where In years past, we would use what was called a wonder winder that was made of 2x4s, and we would hand wind 5 acres of drip irrigation. And that would take weeks of work of an individual winding. And we wanted to automate it a little bit more so that it required less labor, because labor is getting more expensive and harder to find. So here's a couple images of our seed crop cover crops in our alleys. On the left, this is one of the most beautiful lettuce crops that I've grown over the years. It's Paris Island lettuce, and seeded in the alleys is a mixture of oats, rye, and a little bit of clover that has not yet emerged. What we would do is we would drop seed, we would create the beds, drop seed in the alleys, and then come through and on a transplanter on the tractor and transplant the lettuce plants. On the right, we have carrots, and with this particular production, we you can see there's black mulch on the ground. That is a Bio 360. It's compostable biomulch. It's made of a non-GMO soy or corn mixture. And so we would lay that mulch with a mulch layer on the back of our tractor. And then we used the drop seeder, seeded the alleys, and then we transplanted. We transplanted about 4,000 carrot roots that we had stored over the winter. On the left, we have a radish with rye and clover. And on the right, we have corn with rye, clover, buckwheat, and oats. And I would say out of all of the crops that we did, the radish with rye and clover and the corn with the rye and clover, buckwheat, and oats, those two crops did phenomenal with these mixtures. The radish, we have finger weeders that we use on our electric Alice Chalmers G tractor. And I did 3 passes of weeding these radish plants. And then we didn't even make it a pass with hand weeding with wire weeder or hula hose. And the cover crop mix with the radish, once the radish really established itself, we didn't have any weed competition. It was a phenomenal crop mix that actually made the crop more valuable because we had less time investment during the season, which was one of the things that we were looking at, is how can we reduce our time in the field so that way the crop is actually more valuable because we have less hours invested in it. And then with the corn, we actually waited until there were 5 leaves. And so they were at their 5th leaf stage of the corn. So that was probably about 4 weeks after transplanting. I came through and seeded the cover crops. So that one allowed us to come through and do passes of weeding to keep it clean. But secondly, it allowed the plants to really get a head start over the cover crops so that it wouldn't suppress their vegetative growth. You can see the radish. This is post-harvest of the radish plants. So we have the soil that's exposed was where the radish plants were, and this is the cover crops that are left for the season or for the winter. And so this becomes a strip of cover crops throughout our 5 acres. So we have coverage on everything this winter, which will help us with erosion. It fixes nitrogen, and it also will provide organic matter for future years. On the right is sunflower. Again, this is another crop that did really well with crop mix that we had in it. The sunflowers and the rye, they work perfectly together. And the vetch and clover as well. The vetch would grow up the sunflowers, so you had beautiful late season pollination going on with the vetch. And the vetch is hardy. It's going to last all winter. It's fixing nitrogen. And what was great with the sunflower is that we could broadcast, we seeded with the drop seeder in the alleys and then undersowed once we transplanted the sunflowers. We just broadcast by hand underneath the sunflowers, cover crop mix. And so we had very limited weeding that we had to do on this crop, which in years past, sunflowers, as much as they compete with weeds, we always had a lot of weeds at the end of the season. This year, once we harvested the flowers for their seed, I just came through with a brush hog, knocked down the sunflower stubble, and that will just eventually be incorporated in the soil. The mulch layer served, well, the mulch winder or the drip winder, it actually served two purposes. We use in the alleys for some of our crops, we use a woven fabric, and the winder worked very well at removing that fabric, which again took a lot of labor of hand folding all these spools up, plus save space putting all this on a reel. And so I could, in a matter of minutes, take out 250 feet of woven fabric as opposed to multiple people folding it up, putting it on forklifts, forks, and moving it out of the field. And the picture on the right is just what it looks like once we've removed the drip with the winder. And this is our contact information. You can see our raspberries in the background with some beautiful cosmos flowers in the foreground. Thank you.